Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Scottish Football. We're back with a podcast that has been a little while, but David, nice to see you're still surviving through the lockdown up north. But how's yourself?
Keep us up to date. Yeah, it's been near enough a month since our last guest on the podcast, so I'm delighted to have another one on. I start Andrew BARROWMAN. Andy, how are you, mate?
I'm very well, thanks. Delighted to be here.
Brilliant. Good to have you on, mate. Yeah, I'm good. For those who don't know Andy, I was going to make a pun about like more clubs than Tiger Woods, but you must be fed up with that patter after all years.
I've not heard that one before. No.
Also, senior brand manager at Joma, so you're still very much involved in football. Yeah, so we're just going to touch on a few things from your footballing career, what you're up to nowadays. So, as I said there, the main man at Joma, how are you enjoying that?
Yeah, it's great. Been just over 3.5 years now, so it's flew so I think that tells you you're enjoying it when it's went so quickly. Obviously still involved in sport and predominantly football, so that kind of helps. And around football clubs and retailers, all kind of sports minded, football minded kind of people. So yes, it's really enjoyable, good company to work for, and we do very well in Scotland. So yeah, it's been enjoyable. We're going from not having a job, not ever having a proper job, if you like, since leaving school to my first job. It's been good. I've enjoyed it.
It must have been good to keep a job in football, because I think for a lot of players, especially in Scotland, who are earning mega money, playing football, to have a job in football once you retire, that must have been was that a long-term ambition to stay in the game, or was it kind of how did you get into that sort of line of work?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'd started a degree. It's a business management course, but it was done through FIFPro, the sort of governing body for the Players' Union in Europe, and it was all kind of sports people. It was geared towards professional sports people. So, it was a business degree, but they'd related it all to sports. So all the case studies you did, all the assignments were all, about different things like that. So it's a special design course for professional athletes. So I did that for 4.5 years degree. I started that when I was 28. So yeah, I always kind of hoped to stay involved in sport in some way, but it's just there's not many jobs, to be honest, and especially in Scottish football. Yourself, the way it is in terms of the finances and stuff. Clubs kind of run with skeleton staffs, and you're doing maybe 5 or 6 jobs if you're employed by a football club in Scotland. So I always knew it would be difficult. So for me, this is a great opportunity, and one I was really thankful to get. And as I said, I'm really enjoying it, and long may it continue.
Yeah, as you said, you're doing a lot of work in Scotland. You've got a lot of Scottish clubs on board. Obviously, I've seen some of the stuff. You obviously done the Dunfermline kit this season. St Mirren, Raith Rovers, Dumbarton, Stranraer, a few others as well, I'm sure, in Scotland kicking about. As well as do you do European clubs as well? I saw you had some stuff on your Twitter with Anderlecht and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not involved in that personally. Different sort of areas, different countries have their own sort of managers. So I'm not kind of directly involved. But it's good to just showcase the brand. I think we've been in the UK for about 12 years now, Joma as a brand, and still there's a lot of people that kind of not too familiar with what we do, and posting the sort of stuff I do on social media about Anderlecht, everybody knows these kind of clubs. So the SK Moscow we just added, which is a massive club we see playing in the Champions League every year. So it's good to it just helps with the brand, I suppose, and doing it. Scotland, we touched on it there, Scotland really strong. We've got 10 of the 42 professional clubs for next season, so whatever next season is. So yeah, we're doing really well. We're continuing to grow year after year. Yeah, it's good.
I mean, I'm sitting here head to toe in Joma, so you don't need to advertise to me. Ryan, I think for one thing you always have interest in when you're sort of you don't know anything about it is how clubs come up with the decision to make their sort of new kits and stuff. That's always been something that from a fan's point of view, you don't really hear about that, Ryan, do you?
No, that's what I was going to ask. So the process of actually getting behind designing the kits and stuff is interesting as what an outsider may think. Every year I get all excited for the new kits to come out. Is it an entertaining process? Is it more? How are you directly involved in the process?
Yeah, I mean, it's done. What I think fans don't realise, it's done months in advance. We're signing off kits for the new season in December time. So you're just about launched your this season's kit, and you're starting to turn your attention and look towards designs, and that's the part fans don't really kind of understand. There's a lot of work goes in. They just think, oh, I like it or I don't like it, and there's a lot of work behind the scenes that kind of go with that. Every club's different, really. Some clubs are more involved and they've got great ideas. I mean, Dunfermline's a great example. There's people at the club that are really creative. That's their background. Even going past back when Mikey was there, that's his background. They really hands on in it. They want to, we've not even released this year's kit properly, and they're already firing ideas and for next year's. They're just really that's their bag. That's what they're into. So
I'll be mentioning you some ideas as well, Andy. Don't worry.
Probably. Yeah. I always get random shots sent to me on Twitter by different clubs fans. Can we not do this one? I don't. They don't understand that we can't put like a night tick or a 3 strikes down there. They don't really get that part. But yeah, no. So it's different at every club. It's really enjoyable. I still get that. I think everybody involved in football or sport, you get that kind of new kit feeling, don't you? It's exciting when you pull out on that new kit, whether it's an over 35s team or a professional club you're pulling on as a fan. It's a great feeling, and it's no different for me. I mean, I got the samples just a few weeks back of our pro clubs this year, and I'm opening a parcel nervous. I'm like opening. I've seen it. I've been involved. I've been working on them for 6 months probably. I know what they look like, but I'm still, when I'm opening that parcel, you're getting that wee bit of nerves just to make sure that it looks as good as it does on the computer screen or the 3D graphics. So no, it's a great feeling, and that's, as a company, that's what we sort of what to use that. Every fan feels that, and it's important to. It's been difficult this year in terms of just how we launch kit. We've had to kind of do it with graphics and stuff, which isn't ideal. Don't necessarily think that's the best way to showcase a kit, but it is what it is. We've had to kind of deal with that. It's been difficult to get. Normally we're getting samples of kits in sort of from April time. Again, logistically, just the restrictions that have been on, sort of what you can fly in and stuff. We've not been able to do that, so everything's a wee bit kind of prolonged and a wee bit different. So it's just challenges. Everyone, you see, all the brands are facing the same. So you just got to deal with it. And clubs have done well. It's what's been really good that every club that we've been involved in, even looking at clubs that other brands work with, they're all posting record sales. It's fans are really buying in. They're obviously, fans, we can be a fickle bunch at times and we can moan and whatever, but one thing you can't ever criticise Scottish football fans is they back their clubs. They put their money where their mouth is, and they spend a lot of hard-earned cash on their supporting their club. And the steps have been great, all these crowdfunding things, but I think the fans have really bought into the new kit just because they're getting something back. They're getting something tangible back for supporting their club. They're paying their money, but they're getting a kit back. So everyone's really bought into it. It's been great. All the clubs that we work with their sales are all up on previous years, and it's good to see. And I think the kits are good, but I think there's also that element of fans just trying to support their club.
You talking about?
Just quickly, Ryan. Just something you mentioned there about the graphics with launching these kits. I remember saying to Ryan actually when the Dunfermline kit got launched, it was just like the sample graphic, and I was like, I'm not totally convinced on that. I just don't know if it's got the right feel. And then last week you saw it with we announced 2 new signings with them on. Like the difference in terms of a kit on a screen that's just completely like a graphic to seeing it in the flesh, it's night and day. So obviously that must have caused a couple of maybe nervous moments with when they were first launched, some of them.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's always really hard, and you've seen some of the comments, particularly on social media. It's really easy to kind of keep track of what the fans are thinking, and looking through it myself, and you're seeing some of the comments, like for instance, St Mirren fans kind of moaned about the collar on their home shirt up from the 3D graphics. I'm sitting shouting at my phone thinking, it's a great collar. The graphic just doesn't do it justice. Honestly, the collar's the best bit about it. It's just really, really nice. And I'm getting angry scrolling through my Twitter feed because fans keep saying, don't like the collar, don't like it. I'm like, just wait till you see it. And to be fair, once they have launched the pictures up, you see them saying, actually, collar's not too bad, or that's not what it looks like. So it's difficult. You don't get a true reflection of the kits, but as I say, that is what it is. We've had to just kind of adapt and try to get through it. But now the fans are starting to see them, and the sales are going well, so that's the main thing.
Has there ever been a situation where you've like done one of the kits for one of the clubs, and afterwards you've been thinking to yourself, "Oh God, I've got to pick that up next year"? Has there ever been like a time where you've been disappointed with the outcome for the fans' reaction, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you remember last year with St Mirren, the home shirt. some guy commented that it looked like Lederhosen because of the sponsor across with the 2 stripes. And as soon as that one person commented, it just took off, and everyone couldn't get that out of their head. Even, you know, up until a couple of months ago, you're getting fans saying, "Oh, as long as we get rid of the Lederhosen," and you're just like, it's one person's comment. That no one, hundreds of comments before that, and no one had even mentioned this, and then one person picks up on it. And to be fair, it does look like Lederhosen after he said it. But I mean, there's umpteen people involved in the design process, and not one of us ever said that was an issue. Not one person, you know, designers, the people from the club, myself, no one ever picked up on that. But you can't deny when you look at it, when he said it, you look at it and you think, no, it does look a little bit like it. So that's one that maybe was a wee bit kind of disappointing last year. But on the whole, again, sales were good. The fans always, you know, social media, it's noise, isn't it? But if they don't buy the kit, then that's when you start worrying. But like, again, the sales were really, really good last year on that kit. It's just, it's one of these things. People like to have their opinion on social media now.
Yeah, is there a favourite of this year's kits that you've launched? A favourite that stands out for you?
How can you ask me that? No, to be honest, I really like it's probably between 2. The St Mirren home shirt and the Dunfermline away.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think they're both magic.
I think the Dunfermline away, again, that was right away when we first started the process way back in October last year. That was the design. They had that right away. There wasn't, you know, you go back and forth and tweak this, tweak that. That was the first design they had. They knew what they wanted. It's clear, okay, we maybe tweak little details, but that was the design from the start. They knew what they wanted, and, you know, to be fair, it worked. And you see it in the flesh, it's worked. And yeah, it's good when you get them like that, because sometimes there's lots of people involved in the decision as well, particularly at clubs, and that's not always a good thing. So there's lots of back and forth. But when you get something that's so like hell bent on a design, and it comes off, and you see the finished product, it's really pleasing. They're good ones. So I'd say it's between the 2. It's hard to tell. I'm going to sit in the fence. Nah.
Yeah, I mean, if that's some St Mirren home top was, if the Joma thing was red and it had Dunfermline badge on it, I would have been absolutely delighted with that. I think it's an absolute cracker of a strip. But
it's a wee bit more traditional with the collar, and then come back to the more stripes and stuff, because it's very hard. I mean, black and white stripes.
It should be easy, but trust me, it's definitely not. I mean, I can tell from fan reaction over the years. You know,
you've got to try and mix up as well every year and try and create something different. To be fair, we've added Elgin City to our. It's just like
need Juventus now, and they'll be sorted.
I know, that'd be nice. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that one. But so you're always trying to be different, and some fans are traditional, some fans like the.
That's what I was going to say. It must be difficult. Look at with the Celtic kit this year, for example, as a Celtic fan, a lot of people are saying, you know, keep yellow out the shirt. Then, like, you know, you get other people saying, oh, it's a nice change. Like, to try and balance between tradition and then getting something new. It's a really, as you said, people are fickle. You know, it's hard to please everybody.
As you've got a widespread demographic that's buying a shirt, you know, a 50-year-old's fan is going to be different from a 12-year-old fan, what they like and what they want from a football shirt. You know, predominantly, obviously, it's kind of younger generation that buy the football tops, actual match shirts, but you've got to try and please everyone, and it's really difficult, but you do the best you can, and that's it. You can't please everyone, as they say.
That's spot on. Yeah, I mean, it's always been saying it's something that the fans don't know an awful lot about the process. So that's quite interesting to hear what goes in behind that. We'll move on to the career. Obviously started at Rangers as a youth, and obviously Ryan as the Celtic fan. I'm going to let him read the Rangers section, because I'm sure he's desperate to talk about them.
Oh no, absolutely, of course. Obviously it's really interesting. As you know, a kind of old firm fan to watch as players come up through youth systems, and you see who comes through and becomes a first team player and who goes elsewhere. But signing for Rangers as a young lad, how did that come about? Like, how did the kind of process go for you? What age were you? Like, who was the one that kind of scouted you on and such? What was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, I was playing boys club football. Played for it was an Aberdeen boys club. Nothing to do with Aberdeen. Just that was the name. It's from Blantyre. Just playing away, and you know, we had a good side. There was eventually there was probably about 3 or 4 of us that went to Rangers. It was just a local scout called Joma. I was 8-year-old, believe it or not. So I was in there was in at Rangers from the age of 8 until I was 16 when I left school. So, 3 nights a week. My dad, there was no Murray Park or whatever it's called now. I'm not going to say the name of it, it's called now, but actually, it was probably changed now anyway, to be fair. But yeah, so it was none of that at that time. It was into Ibrox. We get changed in Ibrox. We get changed in the way the restaurant. 3 nights a week, trained in Astroturf across the road. So big commitment from my mum and dad to get me in there every second night or whatever it was, and to train. But no, it was great. I enjoyed it. Really, obviously a big club, and I grew up. I was kind of a Motherwell fan, to be honest. When I was growing up, I live in Motherwell, so I used to go to the games. But you playing with Rangers, you kind of move to that and become a Rangers fan. A lot of my friends were Rangers fans, so yeah, it was great. It was great to be there. It was through the whole Dick Advocaat era. So they're signing, they're spending 5 million, 7 million, whatever it is, on players, and even at youth level, they were buying in 16-year-olds for £250,000. An Austrian guy, Alex Hauser, I think his name was, paid 250 grand for him, 16-year-old. It was just crazy. It was just getting more and more. Spending was getting bigger and bigger. So it was really difficult for any kind of young player to kind of break through. I got to the age of 16. I was playing with Scotland schoolboys as well, so started to get a bit of attention from English clubs. I was at Newcastle, Leeds, Birmingham City, obviously in the end. And so I just went. I was going and playing games for these clubs. I was going down to see them and stuff, and I just got a better feel. I just thought, I want to try something new. English, the academy set up at that time was a lot better than what it is. Obviously Scotland have improved now in terms of academy and having a bit of education as part of your football and stuff like that. But at that time there was none of that. It was literally, you left school, you went and played football. There was no other sort of college, day release college thing or anything, whereas England had all that back then. So I just really fancied the challenge of going down there and test myself. And in the end I picked Birmingham just because I got a great feel for it. They were Championship at the time when I signed in it. Leeds, for instance, had just finished in the semi-final of the Champions League. So I was like, how am I going to be able to get into that team in a few years' time? They were again spending hundreds of millions of pounds. So I picked Birmingham just because I felt it was the right fit for me, and I got a good feel for the club. So moved down there as a 16-year-old, and yeah, it was like a big adventure for me, I suppose.
Even like you said that you were very young when you were at Rangers, obviously, but obviously playing for the Old Firm is completely different to any other club in Scotland. Even as like a 16-year-old, did you feel a certain sort of pressure to sort of like perform? Whether it be in games or training or whatever, was there a pressure even at that age?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Even at that age, you're playing against whoever it may be, Livingston, Motherwell. They all want to beat you. They all want to prove that they're, supposedly Rangers and Celtic are the best young players, and that all these clubs and all these players you're coming up against want to try and prove that they're better than you, just like it is at first team level. So yeah, it was always and that was something the coaches at the time, Billy Duncanson, no longer with us, but he was a kind of older generation coach, and he drummed that into as a kid. It was like, as soon as you put that shirt on, everyone wants to try and beat you. It's like you're playing for Rangers, whatever age you are, whether it's under 10s or first team in Europe. That's the way it is. That's a mentality sort of thing, and Celtic will be the same. But yeah, it is something that was kind of drummed into you. You did kind of feel that pressure, but it was good. You played for Rangers, so as a young boy growing up through school, it was good. It was a nice pressure to have. I enjoyed it.
You were talking about going down to, obviously when your time at Rangers was done, when you went down to Birmingham at such a young age. Is that sort of like, was there a, for me, just the thought of being a football player at 16 down south, kind of moved away from what was there a sort of like fear there, or was it just pure excitement, by taking your career elsewhere, a new chapter, if you like?
Yeah, for me, no, there wasn't any fear. Thinking back now, I probably fear it making that move now more than I did when I was 16. When you're young, you're kind of, you don't have any fears, or you just kind of get on with things. It was probably harder for my mum and dad, particularly my mum, when I moved down there. You don't want your boy going to a big city like Birmingham, and you want to kind of keep them there and protect them. So it's probably hard. I dreamed of becoming a professional footballer. say worked. You know, I was just playing football, I was just enjoying myself. But yeah, you're working towards that, getting paid to play football. You know, and I leaving school and stuff, and everyone, you know, you do the chat with a teacher and picking your course. What do you want to be? I was like, football. I'm like, yeah, but you know, what do you want to be? I was like, no, football. And I'd done, you know, all that for the age of all the way through school. I'd done that, so you get that chance. You know, obviously moving away, but I was still becoming a professional footballer. So I was just desperate to get down there and get started and become this professional footballer that I'd always wanted to be. So it was great, and I got well looked after. It was a good club, really. It's a big club, but also like a family club as well, despite it's big. And to be fair, after my first year, we moved to the Premiership, and the whole scale just goes in a boom overnight. But at that time, it was really, really well looked after, really family valued club, and it was they made it easier for me to move there, I suppose. And as a 16, and that helped. And the football was going good. I went down there and done really well, and youth team and stuff, so that helped. If I'd went down there and maybe struggled football wise, it would have been harder, but everything was kind of going well, so it was easy really for me.
When you were at Rangers, just how did the quality, even as a youth player, what was the quality of coaching like in comparison to sort of what you experienced, you know, other clubs in Scotland especially? Was even the youth coaching, the quality, just was it as high a difference that we'd expect, or? No,
not really, to be honest. No, the coaching, I mean, yeah, there was some good coaches, there was some bad coaches, just like it really is. You go through your career, that's just the way it is. I think, as I touched on there, I think generally the standard of players was higher than probably other clubs. You know, okay, you got other good players that maybe come through at Hibs and Hearts and good players, but I think in a general standard, the overall quality was probably better, and that is probably better players are easier to coach, I would imagine. So. So that's probably helped them. But no, I wouldn't say that all of the coaches were of a great standard. Again, the whole academy setup that exists now wasn't there at that point. You know, as I say, we were getting changed in the away dressing room at Ibrox, and there was like 50 boys cramped in there, and you know, walking across the road onto the Astro, which was like concrete, and it wasn't. You weren't like looked after the way the kind of players are now, and all the kit and everything. Don't get me wrong, you got all the kit and everything, but it's different now. It was just, you were just there, you know, to learn. And there's 3 nights a week. It's quite a big ask as a kind of 10-year-old to train for 2 hours, 3 nights a week, plus your school and everything. So you train that much, you're going to improve as a player, I think, no matter what it is you're doing.
Who were the top players in that sort of youth setup with you? Did any that really went on to the first team?
So my team had Stephen Smith, the left back, who eventually went and played. Alan Hutton.
Not bad.
No bad.
There was a few. Darren Fletcher was there, but he was always kind of going to Man United and Arsenal and all that. So I don't think he was ever going to kind of sign full time for Rangers. But he trained. He was in the same team. Craig Beattie.
Aye.
And I think lots of other players that kind of went and played again at a highest level, but they all had kind of careers in the game. So.
And see, at that sort of time, the ones that went on to play for Rangers, do you think that they were ahead of you in ability-wise at the time, or was it just sort of like luck in terms of, well, not luck, but just career path, you know, go out in different ways? Did you feel at the time that they were going to really succeed at Rangers?
No, I wouldn't say. I mean, obviously, sometimes you're in a team and you can pinpoint. Well, I remember Birmingham playing against Wayne Rooney, and you just knew he was 16, but you just knew this guy's something. This guy's different. I wouldn't say there was anyone Rangers had really at that time. In my age group or the age groups kind of round about us, there wasn't anybody who would say he's extra special. You just knew good players, and everyone that was there was probably a good player. So, but no, a bit of luck or right time, your position, whatever. If there's a pathway for you, there's loads of different things, and you know, obviously how the player performs as well, and how disciplined and how good a player, how he improves and takes to that kind of full time environment is all going to help that. So. Well, full credit if you to make the breakthrough. If you go through a club like Rangers and come up through the ranks and eventually make the first team, it's some achievement for any player to do that at any level. But to do it at a club like Rangers, it's a wee bit harder, I would say. So
yeah, definitely. After Birmingham, I came back to Scotland. I think, you know, we definitely want to touch on the Ross County stuff. I know Ryan's desperate to talk about a certain cup semi-final, but your first season back at Ross County, your first season at Ross County, that was probably your best goal scoring for in your career. I think it was 24 and 32 or something like that?
29.
There we are. He knows his stuff.
Come on, don't insult the man, David.
You always remember. You don't remember the ones you missed, but you remember the ones you scored.
Yeah, so Ross County, obviously. I mean, I'm from up in the Highlands, obviously, still miles away from Dingwall, but that cup semi-final, Ryan. I know that was a big day for you.
Well, I was. Some would say I was fortunate not to be at the game that day. From my side of things, but being part of that team, going into the game, where was the kind of expectation within the squad? Was there any sort of, of course you go into it's a cup semi-final, you're a Hampden, you're all up for it, you want to be. I would imagine it's a very special occasion. You're desperate to go out and win, but what were you expecting in that game against Celtic? Did you think there was much of a chance of going through?
You know what, we actually did see the squad that we had at Ross County at that time. That was one thing we had. We had belief in our own ability. To be fair, it was a young team. It was all players that had maybe played at a higher level, that had suffered a setback in their career and were trying to kind of rebuild. And that's the sort of player that Ross County were deliberately signing at that time. So, from that, we were quite cocky, but we knew we had good players in the squad. So, we would always win in every game, sort of. Full of thing. Celtic weren't really in a good time at that moment. They were kind of struggling, and so if ever there was a time you were going to beat them, then that was an opportunity for us. But again, as you say, it's a semi-final. It's at National Stadium. The Old Firm don't tend to get beat in many of these. There's been a few over the years, but not many. So, but I mean, that was probably our cup final. We're going into that game and just to build up and everything, thinking, go out and enjoy the day, give it our best, and this is our cup final kind of thing, because maybe we got a chance of beating Celtic. But as the game started, and I'm really comfortable in the game, to be honest. There wasn't much between it. It's half time, 0-0. You're thinking, and that's probably where the mood kind of changed from having this kind of blind optimism to actually thinking, oh, we can win this game here. This game's here for the taking. I remember it in the dressing room half time, like it was yesterday, with the mood coming from the manager, Derek Adams, the players. We were all saying, no, we can beat these here. We're in the game here. We're going toe to toe with them here, and we can beat them. And we obviously went out and scored quite early in the second half, and we were never really going to get beat after that. Celtic throw the kitchen sink, but they didn't have lots of. It wasn't like our goalie was making lots of saves, or it was comfortable in the game. We were keeping possession of the ball. It wasn't like backs to the wall. Okay, last 10 minutes, a wee bit of that, but it was 2-0 when we scored the second one late on. But it was a comfortable victory, really. And if you game back, it's so it's not. It was great, but getting to half time was really important. If we went at half time maybe 1 down or something, then it's a hard one. But getting in 0-0, it was like we all just kind of sat and looked at each other and thought, no, we can do this.
It's a weird one, because you always think with sort of smaller teams coming up against the Old Firm, the longer the game goes on, they'll eventually tire them out. That game's kind of the opposite. I mean, the second half, you guys came to life completely. That's the one thing I remember at that game, is what you've said there. Is it like, you would expect that to be Celtic having 30 shots, 15 on target, goalie has a man of the match performance, but that wasn't really the case at all that day.
No, it wasn't. As soon as we got that first goal, we weren't losing that game. Again, sometimes you score against the bigger teams and it almost sort of angers them a wee bit, and it's not a good thing. But we got that goal and we were not losing that game. I don't know if you remember, the Ross County fans were giving it the Ole. We were passing the ball about. I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say, but they were the rest of the oi, we're keeping the ball off Celtic at 1-0. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's crazy. It's a real day, really. But no, it was. When you're in a game, you're up against a good team, and even if you win the game, if you nick the game, when you're up, when you're up against it. And a game as a player, and didn't have that day. It was. We were seeing a lot of the ball. It was a comfortable game to play in, really.
You said earlier that was your cup final. Do you think that when the cup final actually came round, that probably hampered you? In the fact that you'd given so much to get that far, it was almost like, I mean, were you lot still in the piss by the time the final came around?
Probably, we were all still drunk, probably. But no, to be fair, you're right. It's Dundee United were a good side, by the way. Everyone kind of forgets that they had a lot of good players that went on to play at really high levels. A lot of players get moved from that team, so they were a good team. Also, credit to Peter Houston at the time. He done a number on us. He had watched us about something crazy like 8 times, 9 times in the lead up to that game. He'd done his homework. He got a game plan against us that day that really worked. We couldn't. They kind of sat in, which is crazy. Dundee United, you think they kind of sat in against us. It wasn't like you would think they were a team and we would be the ones kind of defending and trying to hit them in the break. They done it to us. The tactics they got that day was spot on, and it was because he'd watched us. He'd travelled up to Dingwall. Every game we played, he seemed to be at our game. I don't know how the fixtures fell and stuff. We had a lot of midweek games to catch up, and he was just there all the time.
Yeah.
Fair play to him. It was also remember the Ash Cloud, the whole Ash Cloud episode?
That's right, yeah.
So we were supposed to go away. Our season had finished. The Premier League obviously had went on a wee bit longer, and I think they had like 1 week in between the cup final. We had like 4 or 5. Our season had finished really early. We were supposed to go away. The club would take us to Marbella training camp thing. We couldn't fly because of the Ash Cloud. So we were training in Dingwall.
That's quite a difference. That's a reality shot when you think you're going to be in Marbella and you're in Dingwall.
Wee bit. So it was just loads of wee things. It just you go for, at that time of the season. If you go 4 or 5 weeks without a game, you're not going to be as fit as you want to be. You need to keep going, and we're trying to play bounce games and stuff, but it's never the same. There were just loads of different things. But Dundee United were better on us today. But again, 3-0, didn't score the first goal till like the 60th minute. And everyone kind of forgets that, again, it's 0-0 at half time, and you look at the score 3-0, you think, it's been a convincing win, but it was 3 goals in the last 30 minutes. Don't get me wrong, I don't think we had a shot and goal in the day, to be fair, but it wasn't a 3-0. I don't think it was a lot tighter game than what it was. But I think, as you're right, I think the semi-final was our cup final, and there's that wee tinge of disappointment. Maybe let yourself down in the final to not go on and win it, but you sit back and look at it, especially now when the career's over, you can sort of say how big an achievement it was to get there. And you can kind of forget about the disappointment of actually losing on the day.
Another thing everyone else forgets, you did win a cup that year. I mean, that's totally forgotten as well. Challenge Cup against Queen of the South. Sure you scored the first. Was that season?
Next season.
No.
Next season actually. Next season.
You've had a Mel Davidson.
Next year, I know it's the next season because we had about 4 managers the next season to go from that, and then obviously they struggle. We actually struggled in the league the next season. Jimmy Calder would come in at the end, and that final, Jimmy Calder hadn't managed us at all in that whole cup competition. His first game he manages in that cup was the final. It was 4 managers in the 1 year that year, so that was a bit of a crazy season to go from the highs of the season before to that. It was just, as I say, it's a funny whole game. It's the same squad as well, literally maybe a couple of difference. It was the same squad, and they finished for like 6 or something. And actually won the year later. It was crazy.
That's another thing that's mad, because Ryan, you think about Ross County now as a Premiership side, even though they had a season at the Championship there, this was a First Division side, and as you said, at the time they were sort of mid-table First Division. That sort of emphasises just how big an achievement it was, Ryan.
I know, it's crazy to think. There was actually one thing I wanted to bring up about the Celtic game. It was just in my mind before David went on to the final, the cup game. But how does it feel when you're walking off the park? You're celebrating, you've got your own fans celebrating, but then you look to the other side and you've got players like Aidan McGeady and a Premier League legend like Robbie Keane and Neil Lennon's sitting there fuming. Was that special feeling knowing after you've done that, when you're looking at that, was there sort of like inject it sort of feeling to it?
I actually got Robbie Keane's shirt in that game, so I can arrange before. I knew the kit man at Celtic, or my friend knew the kit man, so he can arrange to I was going to get his shirt after the game. So there's actually a picture of me walking off the pitch, and I'm got my arm around Robbie Keane. You can see him saying like, "I have your strip," and he's going, "No, I've arranged to give it to somebody." I'm going, "It's me. It's me that's to get it." And he's going, "Well, no, I'll take it inside. You can get it inside if it's you." He obviously didn't believe me.
I must have thought that
actually me to get it. Didn't know who it was. So, but I did. I got it eventually. To be honest, I think when you win a game like that, you're just too busy celebrating with your own fans. And we were on the pitch for about half an hour, I think, after the game before. So I think Celtic were all changing away before we even made it to the change room. We were just trying to soak up. But if you had Neil Lennon, me and a couple of other boys were kind of making our way up to the kind of lounge and stuff after the game and to see the families. And Neil Lennon was coming back from a TV interview, and to be fair, he stopped and shook everyone our hands and said, "Well done, lads. He's fully deserved that. He's were great today." And obviously, he's just lost a game. Could have been ramification for him, but for him to stop and take that time, and it was 2 minutes out of his time, but it was great. I always remember, always thought really highly of him after that, because he didn't need to do that. It showed the kind of mark in a man, I suppose.
I mean, you've covered something for Ryan there, because Ryan's got to compliment Neil Lennon in every single video he does, so you've done that for him there, which is fantastic.
I'm sure that's the day as well. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sure that's the day Emil Braffide stormed out the changing room according to Mark Wilson. So I wonder if it must have been a great day for Lennon. I think about it.
They weren't in, as I say, they weren't in a good place at the time. There was loads of unrest, and Guemo got taken off half an hour into the game, and there was loads of players that probably didn't deserve to be wearing a Celtic jersey that day. Fair, but it's still Celtic, and you've mentioned McGeady's and Keane's. It was still a very, very good team.
You don't know how many times you get the chance to win at Hampden. That's the thing,
No, definitely. And as I say, when you look back in your career, these are the days that you remember. These are the ones that kind of stick out.
And just quickly again on the Challenge Cup thing, I think over the years the kind of seriousness that clubs take it with has sort of deteriorated. I think now a lot of people kind of take the piss out of it really in terms of a competition. How highly do you rate that victory? Is that something that you remember fondly, or is it kind of just another game? Or
no, I mean, listen, it's a medal, a game. I keep saying it, but when you finish your career, these are the things you look back on. And we've got a son now, and these are the things you'll sit there with him and show him and stuff. And
tell him it's a Scottish Cup one.
I don't know if he'll know what Alba is, or Alba's Alba, or whatever you call it. So, but no, listen, as a player, you want to win every game, and you can get your hands on a trophy, a medal, it's a great occasion. And the clubs, I can understand why the clubs kind of lay it down and stuff now, and they're trying to kind of revamp it and change a wee bit with different countries coming in and stuff. But as a player, when you're on that pitch, you want to win. And if you once you start getting to a quarter-final, a semi-final, a final, then you're desperate to win that cup. So maybe in the early rounds, you're not really thinking about it. It's about just finding your feet early in the season, fitness and whatever. But once you start getting, believe me, if players want to win that game, they might be different. They might be thinking different from the guys in the boardroom or whatever. But the players want to win it. It's a trophy, and you want to win things as a player.
Anything else on that to Ryan to cover before I jump into Dunfermline stuff and just?
Well, I was about to actually throw it over to you. I was about to say I'm sure David's bursting at the seams to get a wee conversation about Dunfermline on the go. So I guess that's it. I can see you going red. So you better start.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, everyone always says. I always feel like. I mean, Andy, you were at Dunfermline 2 spells, and for the actual team, they were pretty tough times. But you're sort of the fans always took to you. I remember even when you returned, there seemed to be a good relationship with the fans. Obviously, we've had Joe Cardle on the channel before. We talked to him about. Obviously, administration. He was in the same boat as yourself at Dunfermline. That's when you left. Talk us through that. That must have been, a horrible way to leave.
It was. I mean, you're right. I always look back at my career. My 2 happiest spells were Ross County, for obvious reasons, and another one was Dunfermline. And that sounds crazy because first time I was there, I got made redundant from administration.
After a relegation,
and the second time we finished 7th in League One. It's like, how can you say that they were happy times in your career? But it's just the club. I don't know, it's something about them, the people there and the fans. It's just a great club, and still go back there now, still work with them in the day job, and it's like, it's just, I don't know, there's just a special feeling. You get that with some clubs, and for me, Dunfermline, I had that with Dunfermline. But no, it was a tough time in terms of the whole administration thing. That day, obviously, we actually found out that we were the players that were going to be made redundant. I mean, that's a combination of probably 6 months. This has been on for 6 months. It started, I think, in October. So a good 4 or 5 months anyway, and you're not getting paid. We never get paid from October onwards. We'd get 20% of our wage or a wee bit put in here, but we never get paid properly from the October wage. So it's hard that you was trying to play games on a Saturday, but you're struggling to pay the bills. You've got mortgages, your families, and everything, and you're not being able to kind of pay these bills. Players are there earning enough money that they can pay off savings and whatever we can. Players are the wages they're getting are not not like that at that level. You know, you don't have all this money to fall back on. So it was affecting players' lives. It was affecting their personal life. So it was a really difficult time. Obviously difficult for the club, and it's not just the players. There's other people at the club that weren't getting paid as well. So again, you feel for them. You can maybe move and get another club, but these guys have worked there for 10 years, 20 years in some cases, and that's a bit that probably doesn't get that much press, and people don't really talk about these guys, but they're probably more important than us, really, you know. But it was a really difficult time with a good side, a really good side. We'd just been relegated. We were sitting, Celtic were a good side as well, but you know, it was us two at the top, and just I think we'd have won that league that year. We just had a good blend of kind of experience and youth, and Jim Jeffries was recruited well, and people like Josh Folk, you know, Andy Geoghegan and stuff, and we were going really well, and it's just so disappointing that something like that stopped us, really, because it would have been interesting to see. I think we wouldn't have been far away, put it that way. As I say, that's over a good side, but I think we would have pushed them close that year.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely for me, when I think about that, you know, that was a really good team up near the top, as you said. You know, who knows what would have happened, but I think for me, in terms of, like, from your point of view, for me, from outside looking in, if that wasn't the case, that looked to me like that might have been a place where, you know, we joked earlier on about how many clubs you've had and stuff, but that might have been one where you settled down for a good few years if the circumstances were different. Yeah,
absolutely. Even when I got the opportunity to go back, I went from Manchester, I ended up signing with Dundee, and then the following season I was at Livingston. But I was actually going to go back in the January then. Jim Jeffries was still the manager, and they were trying to get me back in that January. It didn't happen for whatever reason. Livingston or whatever wouldn't allow it, so it didn't happen. But I was desperate to get back. As soon as I was really trying hard to get back there. Next year, obviously, I signed for Morton, and John Potter gets the job. And right, I mean, I'm good mates with Potsy, and right away he was on to me saying, look, let's try and make it happen. And there was obviously a coaching role. I was taking under 20s as well, which was something that maybe would have moved on, and as you say, stay there for beyond my playing career and whatever. And fortunately enough, we were able to get a deal done. I pleaded with Jim Duffy, who was a manager at Morton.
I remember. I heard about it all.
I remember I just basically said, I need to get back there. And Morton were top of the league at the time. We were above Dunfermline, and I was like, look, it's nothing to do with I enjoy it here, nothing to do with you on a pitch. It's Dunfermline. I just need to get back there, kind of thing. And he kind of made it happen. I kind of took a bit of hit on wages wise, and I ended up I was back there, but obviously it was a disastrous spell for the club on the park, and it was really disappointing that I couldn't go back there and sort of do well and get the club back up again. So.
Yeah, it was a tough time for the club. You still managed to have, I remember that, I was watching some of the goals back, that late winner against Sterrismuir, so you still kind of got, I remember seeing your celebration, I just watched it back last night. I mean, you still had that moment. You could just see how much it meant to you to be there.
Aye, it did. I mean, it doesn't sound very glamorous when you sit here and say you scored Dunfermline in front of whatever 3,000 fans. We've got a last minute winner against Stenhousemuir, and I'm going nuts, take my top off. It sounds a bit stupid now in the cold light of day, but aye, it was just that moment. I'd scored 2 in that game, and it was I'd never take my top off ever before. I don't know why it just happened, and it was off, and it was swinging around my head before I knew it. But aye, you're right. I think that was just taking a relief, because I'd come back and maybe team hadn't kind of hit the ground running like you want to do when you come back to the club. And I think that was just maybe a 4th game or something like that, and it's probably just that kind of relief that came out there. And again, we didn't kick on. You want to kick on after that and go and win game, and I think we lost the next game or drew the next game. You're just like, we couldn't get out that rut we were in. So it was disappointing, especially for myself and stuff. But John Potter, I think, he's a great coach. He's a great guy. He deserved his shot at that job, and he kind of let him down as players, to be fair. And obviously, you get one shot at these things, and you might never get that opportunity again. I know he's went on, he's done really well coaching wise and Ross and stuff, but he's a good coach, and he deserved a fair crack at that manager's job at Dunfermline, because he loves the club as well. He's a local boy, and it meant a lot to him to get that, and hopefully he gets another chance.
Just moving on to career more generally, you normally think of players who go through clubs quite regularly. People tend to think, oh, he must have an attitude problem. He can't settle anywhere. That's never really been the case for you. So you're kind of like, those sort of stereotypes don't really apply to you. Why is it? Is it just different circumstances with each one? Is it like just the way things have worked? I'm guessing there obviously wasn't that intention, to go through that many clubs.
Nah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, some of the clubs, obviously, some of the other ones were kind of loan spells when I was down south, and that kind of clouds it. And people say, 14 clubs, but 4 or 5 of them might have been loan spells that you're there for a month and getting pulled back to your club, and that's just part of your kind of development. But moving on from that, I mean, I think all the kind of clubs I went to, I always kind of moved to better my career. I was always moving up the divisions. Maybe in hindsight, some of the decisions that I made, I should have maybe not. I should have just stayed where I was and whatever. But I always felt that I made the decision to move to benefit my career, and as I say, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But at the time, it was the right decision for me to do. And obviously, later in their career, the legs had gone. I was kind of hanging on a wee bit, and there's 3 or 4 clubs there that I should have probably called that a day. Actually, after the administration thing at Dunfermline, I mean, joking aside, that sort of, it did actually kill the love for football a wee bit for me. I'd always been, I'd always my life, but after that, it took a wee bit to come back from that. Really, to be honest, it was really kind of, I just took the love out of it a wee bit for me, and I never really kind of got that back fully, to be honest. Obviously, coming back to Dunfermline, that was the happiest I'd been again, after that time. But again, didn't really work out, and I called it a day after that season. I ended up signing for Albion Rovers at that time. I was finished. I was done. The part-time thing I'd never been part-time before, and I couldn't take it. The legs couldn't take it at all. I was picking up calf injuries and hamstring injuries. I just couldn't take to the part-time football at all. And as I say, I should have just called it a day in that summer, but I
didn't. I mean that's the spell at the film. You could tell you enjoyed it. Ryan, we've got some quick fire questions.
We'll kind of wrap it up since we've been talking for about 50 minutes. We'll move on to the last 3 segment. I'm just going to fire some questions across, Andy. Feel free to take as long as you like, but just whatever you're thinking. So it's just a few. First one is best player you've ever played with.
Easy. Christophe Dugarry at Birmingham, French World Cup winner. He was just ridiculous. Just a magician. Like on the training pitch, some of the things he did, it was just like the amount of times the whole pitch just stopped and was like clapping in training. He was just ridiculous. He was a different level. He kept Birmingham in the Premiership on his own 1 year, literally on his own. He was that good. He was just ridiculous. 6'2", strong as an ox. But technically, he was just ridiculous. He played these one touch, 2 touch games in training and stuff, and he'd get the ball in. And sometimes players are struggling to control it with 2 touch. Never mind, he would flick it up and volley it over his head in the top corner, 2 touch, like just from all angles. And he was just different. He was just different breed. There was some great players in that squad, but he was just on a completely different level.
The best player you've played against?
But again, in terms of I played against a lot of good players, but for me, like my direct opponent, the hardest opponent I've played against, was when I was coming through it, but when I was in the reserves, and we played against Middlesbrough. I don't know if you remember a guy called Colin Cooper, centre half, England international. Played with Middlesbrough and Nottingham Forest, and he was older at that time. He was about, I don't know, 36, somewhere. I was coming to the end of his career. I think he was going about coaching at Middlesbrough, and he was playing in the reserves. They were in the Premiership at the time, and I remember seeing. I was about 18. I remember seeing a team sheet. I was like, Colin Cooper, fancy it tonight. He's about 40 years old. I fancy my chances against this guy, and I'm going to run him all over the shop. Nah, the guy he knew it was like he was too strong for me. He knew what I was going to do before I did it. He was just so experienced and just read me like it was the hardest 90 minutes of my life. And I always talk about that, 18, and no matter how many years I went on to play after that, he was always the one that I can remember just feeling, I don't know what to do against this guy. When you're in a game, you're just thinking, I just literally cannot get past this guy. I can't get away from him. I can't get a sniff at the goal. He's just far too good for him. Davy Weir was another one, actually. Davy Weir was like that. He was really hard to play against. again, you're thinking, he was about 40-year-old at the time. You're thinking, I like to think I could run him and whatever. But he just knew what you were going to do. Just read. These guys just read the game so well, just so intelligent. As I say, it's like they know what you're going to do before you even do it. That's the hardest stuff for him.
Have you got a funniest teammate? Anybody who was kind of life in the changing room, made everything a wee bit more entertaining?
It's a few, to be fair. Ross County with a few characters in that dressing room. Michael Gardine, who's still there at the moment, a legend. He's crazy. I mean, I think by all accounts he's kind of mellowed a wee bit now, but mellowed. When you say mellowed, from where he was at that time, some of the things he got up to on a daily basis was just. You just shake your head. It's just like he's just nuts. He's just crazy. Martin Scott was another one. He was in that Ross County team. He scored against Celtic, the second one that day, and he's well. Everyone kind of talks about him. Every club he's been at, every day he gets called Jimmy Scott. Every day just kind of like all him on these kind of things. Just crazy. Just some of the things he got up to. I know all football players like a wee bit of a laugh and no big kids, but these guys were just a different breed. Just some of the things that they got up to was just you would never dream of doing. So they would be the two that kind of stuck out.
Have you got a favourite stadium to play at, or a best stadium that you played at in your career?
Best stadium. Everyone always says it, but Tynecastle is a great stadium to play at. You just, as a player on a pitch, you just get a really good. It's just a good atmosphere and it's all close in and it's really good. But obviously, Hampden, get good memories at Hampden. You know, the games and stuff, and even playing there against Queen's Park, I always seem to score. And so Hampden's a nice one as well. Actually, I always scored at Cowdenbeath. I've never played a game at Cowdenbeath and not scored.
I was watching one of your goals against Cowdenbeath last night, actually. That definitely wouldn't be up there for best stadiums, though.
No, it's not. But you know, when you get a game, as a player, you're thinking, I'm going to score here today. That was always one. I knew I was scoring at Cowdenbeath every game I played there, no matter who I played with, how we were performing. I knew I was going to score that day. It was just one of these stadiums. I don't know. I should have maybe a sign for Cowdenbeath.
The last couple of questions, just really quickly. Who's the best manager you've been able to work with?
A few, to be honest. I mean, Steve Bruce at Birmingham was a really good man manager in terms of coaching and stuff. Didn't do a lot, you know. Some days you wouldn't even see him out on the training pitch, but just that kind of man management and the way he spoke to you and stuff. And he was really good. And at that age, I learned a lot from him coming through and just little pointers, they would say. And obviously, great player, great career. And he picked up quite a lot in that kind of early years when I'm trying to kind of make my way in the game. So he kind of stands out. But Derek Adams at Dunfermline, again, completely different character from the likes of Steve Bruce. You know, you wouldn't go for a beer with him, but he's great manager, you know, very well organised, methodical, you know your job. Just really, you can see why he's been on every kind of club he's been at. He's kind of done well because he's standards, he sets high standards, and as a player, it was good to work on. You knew what your role was, you knew what you had to do, and there was no grey areas. So he'd be one there. To be fair, when I signed for Dunfermline the first time with Jim McIntyre, and I didn't actually realise. Obviously, I'd seen him play and stuff, but I didn't actually realise how good a player he was. See the amount I learned as a striker. You know, he was a striker, and the amount I learned about me, my own personal game from him. I would say that's probably the most I learned, like as a individual player, about my game was Jim McIntyre. He was brilliant. I mean, in training he was brilliant every day. He would join in. He always liked because he knew he was good, and he would join in the wee games and stuff. But I learned so much from just about how, because he's not the biggest guy. You know, he's not bulging muscles, but so strong. Just knew how to use his body, and just to that at that time, I was always one for kind of I need to fight with centre backs. You know, I need to wrestle with him and show how strong against him, and he kind of changed me. He's like, it's not about that. You don't need to always show how strong you are. It's about using your body in the right way and just be daft little things like that. And so he was probably another one as well that on that kind of personal game, I learned a lot from him.
Did he ever teach you how to take a Panenka penalty? He's got an absolute cracker in a cup semi-final.
I would never have the balls to do that. No chance. head down and smash
Penalty
it.
Hampden's ever seen.
Brilliant. Honestly, great player. As I say, I didn't really realise how good he was, and right foot, left foot, finishing, heading, brilliant. He was great. For me, the ability that I seen, he should have played at a higher level than he did. To be honest, I know he went down south and Rennes and whatever, but he was tremendous. He was a great player.
And finally, last question. It's a question we try to ask to all our guests.
Ryan, are you actually going to skip that last one I had written down?
Well, I was getting conscious for time.
So I will ask you this anyway, because I think I know what your answer might be. To follow up with best manager, I had worst manager written down after.
Worst manager?
Yeah.
I was getting conscious for time, David. Don't think that I was in too nervous.
I just wanted to hear the answer for this one.
The big question.
For me, worst manager, Terry Butcher.
Yeah.
Whether he's a good manager or not, just probably change it to worst person. Again, it's my personal opinion. Other players speak very highly of him, but for me, how he dealt with me at that day, he's the worst manager stroke person.
I wish I did go ahead and ask the question. I knew that was going to.
I don't know if I'd say it to his face, mind you.
I was just going to say that.
Certainly no.
Let's hope he's not watching.
I could outrun him.
Right then, final question is the one, as I said, we ask all our guests to try and get a kind of idea from different perspectives. We've had broadcasters, we've had former players and Joe Cardo and such, but what does Scottish football mean to you? What has it done for you, and how would you look back at it as a former player?
Well, I think the best way to sum it is, I mean, these last three months or whatever, I've missed it. We can all be critical. We all go to a game, and I go to a game every week, whatever, just pick a game and go. And sometimes I go home and I go, that was rubbish. Why did I pay my money to go and watch that? But we're all critical. But see, when it's taken away, I think, me personally, I've realised how much I've missed it. How much I missed it going down to Fair Park on a Saturday or whatever it may be. And okay, sometimes the product on the pitch isn't great. Listen, I've been involved in a lot of that time over the time. I've probably helped contribute a big part of that in rubbish games and whatever. But it's what it is. There's an excitement about that, and it's no fancy skills and fast free flowing football at times. But that's part of, for me, that's part of the enjoyment. Scottish football, we should celebrate that more. And I put a tweet, and I actually got I went on more than a throwaway tweet I put out, and interaction, like loads of people come on and giving me stick and having a go at me and stuff. And my point was, it's like, I know there's loads of things. I mean, the whole SFA, SPFL, it's embarrassing really on the outside looking in if you're down south and looking at how we're running our game. It is embarrassing, but so what? There's lots of good things we do about the game as well, and I think we need to talk about that more. And as I say, just this wee spell here is just kind of shown for me how much I'll not take it for granted being able to jump in the car and go to a game on a Saturday. And
absolutely.
Take that for granted. At all levels, I go to junior football as well. I like going to take in junior games and stuff if it's a good game. And it is what it is. But let's celebrate what we're good at, and let's celebrate how passionate we are. We said about the fans buying strips and supporting their clubs, and the football clubs can be lazy as well when it comes to fans. They can just expect it every year, and let's promote our game. Let's kind of do more for everyone and tell people about. Of course, we've always got to work on what we don't do well, but let's celebrate what we do well, and let's celebrate the fact that we're not this shiny razzmatazz product that you watch on TV every week in the Premier League. Because let's be honest, I don't think some of the games are absolutely dire as well.
Oh, God,
I've watched quite if it's anything like you guys, I've watched quite a few in the last few weeks, and take away everything when about it, and there's a lot of games that are not great quality either.
Sometimes have the cheek to advertise Super Sunday. It's sometimes just dire.
Nothing super about it. It's what it is. But we don't do that. So I mean, when do you see us calling it back-to-back game, calling it Super Sunday? We're a bit reluctant to kind of do that, but I think we should do more of that. And if we keep telling everybody that our product's crap, then they're going to believe it, aren't they?
Yeah.
If you tell something, the more you say it, eventually people will start believing it. So we can do more. We can do more and promote ourselves and just celebrate what we've got. Don't always put that down, to be honest.
Yep. Brilliant, Andy. You've been a pleasure to have on, mate. Thank you very much for coming on.
Oh no, thanks for having me, guys. Been a pleasure.
It was an honour, mate. Cheers, thank you very much. And just before we close off the show, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to like, subscribe, share it out. Make sure to go and give Big Andy a follow on socials as well. A cracking guest. And we'll see you all next time.